Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBiase, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome a good friend and a Kellogg colleague to the program today, Toby Redshaw. He's a global thought leader and senior VP of innovation and 5G at Verizon, where he's focused on building the future of 5G inside and the fourth industrial revolution. Sounds like a fun job, Toby.
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's the best job at Verizon. Actually, my mission is to take everything that we've got inside and everything we've done on 5G and work with enterprises, government, not-for-profits, educational institutions, national labs, and really kind of marry pragmatism and innovation together to develop real stuff with 5G and have real impact. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Pragmatism and innovation. All right, we'll get into that. Just so everybody knows what kind of scope he's dealing with. This is the number 19 on the Fortune 500 list with $132 billion in annual revenue. Verizon's one of the largest communications and technology companies in the world. They've got about 135,000 employees, and they serve 99% of the Fortune 500 companies. I'd like to know who that one stickler is, by the way, that hasn't come over to your side. And they're in over 150 locations around the world. I think last count I saw there was 1,600 retail locations. So that's quite some girth you have there in terms of size and scope. I thought maybe you could just start out by maybe grounding us in what is Verizon up to? It's not just your mom's phone company anymore. And what's your role there? How do you actually navigate growth and innovation at Verizon?
So a couple of things about Verizon, right? We are a global company. We're structured into three areas. We have the Verizon Media Group that includes the AOL, Yahoo acquisitions, the Riot Film Studio, some very, very cool stuff over on that side. The world's largest video CDN lives there. We have the Consumer Group, which is U.S. focused, very dominant brand. We've won most of the awards for the last decade on the consumer side. And then I live inside the enterprise public sector, the business group. And so we have three CEOs running each one of those. Very, very broad footprint, huge telematics business, huge IoT. We own a drone firm that's really starting to grow. But my mission is to look across the entire piece and work with partners, whether that's in one of our innovation labs or in a co-managed customer innovation hub. And we're right at the cusp of 5G having real business impact and releasing a series of platforms and solutions that I think are really going to revolutionize a lot of verticals.
Right, and again, in a company your size, it's got to be challenging, right, to kind of get that growth and innovation. Even if it's just the enterprise group, I get all the consumer-facing stuff, but how do you kind of drive that forward? What's your group challenged with?
So I think at Verizon it might be a little easier than at some companies. I mean, we have essentially bet the company on 5G, right? We are
right.
Our foundation is to be the best network company, and as networks evolve to software-defined cloud-native networks, which is techno gobbledygook for platforms and solutions, the actual core of the company is about future tech, right? We very publicly did this. We went first. We spent a lot of time getting out into the market first, not
money, billions of dollars.
Yeah, we spend $18 billion a year on capital, so this is not a small thing that we're doing. No. So if that's your North Star inside the company, you by default get this focus on innovation and being the innovative leader. The other thing is a lot like the culture that you and I spent a lot of time in at FedEx. Our anchor, our credo at Verizon, the one that pretty much everybody can say out loud, ends with a sentence about continuous improvement. So North Star is new technology, it's new horizons, and the anchor of our credo is continuous improvement. Probably a little easier for me to work in the innovation space at a company like that is a tech company than say if I was in automotive or building locomotive engines. Our entire brand promise is trust and innovation. It's just 2 words. So that sort of helps.
Let's ground it down a bit before we kind of unpack a lot of the topics here. But some people, all they know is they went to a Verizon store, AT&T store, or whatever, and they got a 4G phone. Now they're getting a 5G phone. They're not really sure. Is there a 6G or a 10G? They're like, geez, when do I know I've got what I need?
So the big thing to know about 4G to 5G is that it is a massive change, right? It is different in 3 fundamental ways. For the first time, you're going to see a huge business impact. There were new models and new businesses created on top of 4G, but 5G will be very enterprise-centric. It's going to change healthcare. It's going to change education. It's going to change retail. It's going to change video collaboration. And we went first. I helped run the team back at the end of 2016 that built the first spec with partners LG, Apple, Nokia, Ericsson, Samsung, Intel, Qualcomm, and Cisco, with their top people, like the chief scientist from Intel, the president of.
I remember that. You guys were out in front there. You were way out ahead.
And we did that, and we brag about it a little bit. We're kind of proud of it, which is okay. But one of the real reasons we did that is this is so different that we knew we had to get into the market, get our hands on it, get the dirt under our fingernails, get the muscle memory, because the engineering and the operation and providing quality service and the things you can do with it are so different than 4G. That hands-on thing. It's like if we decide to go learn rugby and play it. We can study rugby all we want. You got to be on the field, getting the bruises, getting the bumps, making the mistakes. So starting a year or 2 ahead of everybody else, we think that's kind of valuable.
Yeah, that was smart. You laid a foundation. Now you can do vertical applications. So let's dig into one. You mentioned retail. We have a lot of retail audience, Revive being the sponsor of the Reboot Chronicles. Tell us about the impact of 5G in retail, the types of things that you're rolling out, types of examples. For instance, with Revive, it's all about bring your own device and use it for analytics for everything from skincare to makeup to supplements. But there are thousands of applications in retail that you and I could rattle off. What's your message to some of the big retailers out there?
So 5G and a few other technologies wrapped around that, AI, big data, AR, VR, the whole XR world, IoT and cloud, all those things are going to hockey stick in the next 4 or 5 years, right?
Yep. You
can look backwards and go, wow, look where we were 10 years ago. Look how far we've come in each of those technologies. And it's a really steep curve. The next 5 years is going to make that part look flat, right? That is the essential thinking, the foundation of what everybody refers to as the 4th Industrial Revolution, right? There's lots of talk about it. What that is at its core is those 4 technologies riding on the back of a super low latency, fat bandwidth, designed for IoT efficacy, hyper secure network will create a flywheel and really, really change things. The key thing to remember about the 4th Industrial Revolution is, look, everybody believes it's an industrial revolution. The last 3 changed the world. So it is really, really smart people starting out of Davos and the World Economic Forum believe we are on the cusp of a world scale change in technology. Inside of that, that's going to deliver with 5G 4 or 5 platforms that completely change retail. Just like the other industrial revolutions, there will be adopters and winners. There will be people that kind of sit back and watch, and that will be problematic. Let me give you three real examples, right?
Sure.
So I can take a dumb $50 camera, connect it with 5G that does massive bandwidth, super fast, back to the edge of the network. And here's the huge difference about a 5G network than a 4G network. Because it's software defined and cloud native, the edge of the network becomes a computer. So if you're not a technologist, just understand that 4G is a telco network. 5G is a really, really fast, fat bandwidth network with a supercomputer built into your back pocket. So dumb $50 camera, I can send that back to the edge. I can take those pixels and do any kind of pattern recognition you want. Are the retail shelves stocked in the way that your planogram is set up? Tell me that in real time.
Not always.
What's the heat map? Yeah, what's the heat map that's moving around? What's my real-time inventory? How do I do real-time demand shaping for people who are in my store or on the way to the store or around the store? How do I do real-time couponing? I can do that with the same dumb $50 camera and 5G edge pointing down the end. On another scale, another platform that'll come out is a camera, whether it's in your phone or in a device that you're carrying, can be aware of where you are in the store and can in real time give you AR information on your glasses or on your device about your engagement with the store. It can say, Dean, welcome back. You're walking by your favorite food, tagliatelle with bolognese, and I'm going to give you a discount on that today because we're so glad you're back. Or I hold up the camera and walk down the aisle, and it immediately puts a red X on every box that has nuts in it because my twins have a nut allergy. Right. And if they eat nuts, it'll kill them. So I kind of really want to know. I really want to know that. And if you don't have super low latency and that intelligence built in, what if the X popped up half a second too late on the wrong box, right? So that whole engagement, and then very simply, I can put AI at the edge. So I can take all of the information from your factory floor, from your mall, from your big box retailer, and we can combine that and do some rudimentary machine learning against it, and make your operation much more intelligent. We've distilled it down to a series of P's, right? We think if you put in cognitive video, AI at the edge, next-gen immersive platforms, your operations become proactive and precise and preventative and pattern matched and peer connected and predictive. And your customer engagement also becomes those things, which means your customer value proposition is better. Your engagement is stickier. It's more intelligent. I get recognized more. And in retail, if my operations are more defect-free and are better, same story at FedEx, right? Are better than yours. My customer engagement is richer and deeper and more personalized and more proactive and more patterned back to what my real current supply chain in-store capability is. I win, right? Cheaper cost structure, less defects, better customer engagement. I mean, that's really all retail is at the end of the day. Those two things married together.
Yeah, I'm just working on an article right now, post-pandemic or second phase pandemic, let's call it, how in talking with retailers and brands and interviewing them and discussing it with some of the top guys, the need to go to a less touchy environment. I won't say touchless because that'll never happen in this world. Yeah. But so the whole point, this is where I hold up my phone, I don't have, but the whole point about bring your own device, use your own device, the trend that we were seeing and promoting with AI and other tools, I think is accelerating rapidly. So that seems to fit right into this 5G roadmap.
Yeah, the richness of one of the big differences between 4G and 5G is the latency, which is telco geek terms for how quickly does it capture, let's say, use your phone, capture data from an image, send it back to the edge, do the compute and come back. And that's 30 milliseconds, right? That's 1/10 of a blink of an eye. So that the engagement, whether it's through, I'm wearing some sort of glasses, and there's a great company in Brooklyn right now that makes AR glasses that look like the ones we're wearing. You wouldn't know.
Right.
or it can pop up on my iPad or on my phone. But it pops up in real time, so it's exactly where you need it. It's got the compute built in, so that changes the engagement. I think what you're going to see in many areas is the addition of snackable digital commerce on top of retail. Another really interesting area is volumetric capture, right? If you go back into the
What's that?
past, so if you go back into this past, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the only people who were doing this were big Hollywood production firms, right? The Avatar or The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings movies. Or Star Wars. The guy that won the Science Oscar for Star Wars, who then went to New Zealand and worked on the Tolkien movies, works out of my 5G lab in New York and has built a volumetric capture studio using current technology and 5G. It's literally 1,600 times better per unit dollar for throughput. So now you don't have to have a Avatar-sized movie budget to use this, right? You can use this for anything. I can put you in this little space, and oh, by the way, it's portable. I can put you in this little space, scan you down to sub-millimeter, and then put an outfit on you, and then put another outfit on you, and put another outfit, and you can see yourself in motion wearing different outfits with a click of a button.
So virtual try-on application.
Yeah,
there.
so we think everything in retail and CPG is going to move to 3D much quicker than you can think, right? Why would I put a 2D object on the web if I can put a 3D object on the web, right? Now, I do think people underestimate and I think you're going to see this come back after this crisis subsides. People underestimate the social attention and service that you get in retail, right? I think people like that. Now, I think it will diminish given what we've gone through, but there's no scenario where all of this goes virtual. But giving the customers the opportunity to mix and match that and blend the virtual in, I think in retail will work. Imagine you're going to a fancy store or a big box retailer, and it's proactive and preventative and predictive and pattern matched and peer connected and precise, and it recognizes Dean, and it's got a longitudinal.
It says, Dean, the last time you're here, you bought a lot of wine. Come this way.
Yeah.
Or with you, it'd be cigars.
You've got a couple of 3 digital assets that go with that wine that you bought that says, hey, we know what's in your cart. You could make this pairs with that wine really well, or how about this? We know that you bought these 3 things, and this happened to me at a fantastic Italian restaurant in New York years ago, where I am now a regular. The waiter said, "Oh, you really like that wine?" I go, "Yeah, I love that wine." He goes, "Try this. It's better and it's $30 cheaper." And I tasted it, and it was, right? And now I'm stuck. So being my trusted retail advocate, because you recognize me and doing little things like that in a real-time way and adding in digital assets, imagine that fantastic experience. And then imagine the store next door that's still doing 4G. My phone doesn't really work on aisle 6, that sort of place. Which one do you want to go to? Or imagine it's a healthcare facility. Do you want the one with has all of those P's that I mentioned, or do you want the old one?
That's a lot of P's too.
Yeah.
I like the waiter guy. Sign me up for that. Is AI good enough where it can actually do that now?
Yeah. And so here's a big misconception about AI, right? Beating the Korean Go champion, or winning at Jeopardy, or processing the data out of the fusion reactor at Lawrence Livermore, those are really, really hard AI problems. You're looking at billions of rows of data.
Right.
You're looking at 30 layers of machine learning. Optimizing a retail environment or a factory floor, as complicated as those things are, or a FedEx, it's not billions of rows of data. It's not 28 layers of.
No, it's pretty defined.
28 layers. It's pretty much some open source Lego going, here's some patterns we've seen, here's some predictions that we've got, here's some preventative stuff. And maybe one of the most important things that people forget in AI is tell the general manager of that big box store, hey, here's some anomalies that we're not really sure what they mean,
Right.
but you're the expert. Go figure these out, right? I think there's a huge upside. So 5G, in a way, will make AI pervasive, and it will make it real time. And the world works in real time, right? Back at FedEx, getting a little message in your ear saying you're about to be run over by a tug a minute after you've been run over by a tug, not good. Super useful, right?
Not useful.
But saying, hey, Dean, stop, tug coming, you're going to intercept. And, we do that with traffic. We do that with intersections and other things. So I think that that's going to work. But again, one of the P's is permissioned.
Yep.
And precise. So you've got to be very, very careful how you do this, and not in a creepy way. And my sort of rule of thumb is customers will opt into things that have true benefit for them, right? True. So if my experience at the retail shop is more engaging, more personalized, I feel recognized, I've got better deals, they're optimizing my spend, and I walk away with digital assets that really help me with whatever it was I just bought, I'm all in on that. Totally all in.
By the way, a point of reference and full disclosure, Toby keeps referring to FedEx. Both he and I worked there when we were children in Fred Smith's executive team, and we were each nominated the youngest managing directors at that company, so that's where we cut our teeth. And
I was actually first.
Yeah, Toby was actually younger, and what are you going to do about that? At the risk of getting a little wonky, one of the other things besides AI that I teach at Kellogg to executives like you in an executive program is the whole way of how do you do growth and innovation these days. So I set up a scenario of build, buy, and borrow. So it'd be interesting to get your perspectives on when you look to build something new. You rattled off 29 partners in one sentence there, so I know you know this cold. How do you decide, hey, we're going to build this core technology, we're going to maybe acquire these bits of technologies or companies, but we're going to borrow these, we're going to partner with these companies? And how do you think about that mix as you're trying to figure out what are you going to do next now? So it sounds like the next for you is a lot of vertical applications of a infrastructure that is, pretty massive investment out there.
Yeah, so think of it as sort of a 3-layer cake, right? You've got this fantastic 5G network, which is a really, really complicated, expensive thing to engineer. So if you're not good at that, the rest of it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Because it's literally billions of dollars. And if you're off by 10%, then you've just blown, what, 180 million, $1.8 billion worth of waste, right? And not many companies can survive that.
Yeah, that whole millisecond, the millisecond example is very telling.
Yeah, and even worse, bad engineering or substandard engineering in the network translates into bad customer experience. So not only have you blown your capital utilization approach, but you've ruined your experience. So it's a difficult, complicated, deep end of the pool thing. But that's the foundational layer that we're very, very proud of. On top of that, there are platforms, right? Cognitive video, AI at the edge, the AR stuff we talked about, volumetric capture, the next generation of this kind of interaction. And then on top of those are verticalized solutions. So we do have a difficult build, buy, borrow, partner thing. And I think there are two things, two or three things that folks miss, right? There has never been a rate of change in technology as fast as the one we're going through now, right? They're calling that a fourth industrial revolution, a world-shifting thing for a reason. The last industrial revolutions took decades. This one is going to take 5 or 6 years. So if you're not good at innovation, I don't care what business you're in, this is going to be a real problem. And so then directly to your question, I think there's a couple of things in there. I think humility might be the biggest asset when you're looking at these, right? It would be.
Oh, wow.
It would be really easy for Verizon to go, we're a big Verizon, we're super innovative, we'll build some 5G labs and we'll co-innovate and everything will be perfect, right?
Good buzzwords, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but what we did when we built the 5G labs is we found a little itty bitty partner in New York. And we said, look, you help us run these things, right? We want you to engage with the local startup environment. We want you to be our partner. Now, we're a giant elephant and they're a little tiny mouse, and occasionally we tread on them and squash them. We have to go, oh, look, I'm really sorry. But
Right.
That's an example of a really big company being humble enough to go, boy, I need help on innovation. The other thing that's really really important is that when you buy something,
Yep.
you've also made a build decision.
Exactly.
Right. So we are extremely happy with the bringing Blue Jeans into the family, right? To the next generation collaborative video tech and where that can go. Fantastic team, great Legoized technology. But the moment we bought it, we're now in the build business, because you don't build it and then just let it sit there, right? I've got to have another release and another release. And I know that I know at the competition for Blue Jeans, there's a war room with the word Blue Jeans put on it. Go, how do we beat those guys, right?
Exactly. Right.
DHL had one of those massively poorly, though, when they were fighting FedEx back in the day.
Let's dig into that for a second, because it's great that you've acquired it and now you're in the build business. Some people are actually in the killing business. They don't utilize the assets. You guys know you need this. It's strategic. It's core. It's not a rounding error. And even though it was a small company, so they were coming at it from an education point of view. Zoom was more of a corporate kind of point of view, and now is going after education. So your grids on the wall must be competitively interesting. But what's your thought there? How does Zoom become the next, how does a Blue Jeans become the next Verizon, quite frankly, the core?
So I think it's one of those, like the underlying network, it's one of those things that touches every vertical, right? It touches the business of business, right? In whatever business you're in, human interaction and teamwork and engagement really, really matter, right?
Right.
Face-to-face just matters. It would be idiotic to say, hey, let's have lots of meetings, but let's blindfold everybody before we start them, because that's a really good idea and that will be helpful. Right? That's what we did with teleconferences.
Sure, we do. Yeah. Exactly.
And with global companies, the chances of people being in the same room with all the talent, that's just nonsense, right? So it's the fabric of modern business to build these. If only Blue Jeans had been acquired by a company that had a giant media business that was, had the largest AI Hadoop stack on earth and really understood intelligence and was building out a series of AR and VR experiences on the back of this fantastically rich 5G network technology, man, that'd be a really good idea. Oh, wait a minute, we did that. So
we did that.
So back to
and your timing's good. It's booming. Yep.
Back to humility, we've got to not pat ourselves on the back for finding this perfect match at a perfect time. We've got to go, okay, we bought it. Now we're in the build business. How do we judiciously extend it and grow it? And a huge part of that, whether you build, buy, or partner, is the outside-in view of your business, right? Really deeply listening and engaging with customers. And so we've built out a 5G lab network where we co-host customers and dig through that. And almost every customer I've taken through the lab, and now we're building 5G into customers' innovation centers. We have 3 of those lit up. We're doing a whole bunch more. The way it happens, Dean, is people get their hands on the technology and they play with it, right? And they're in there going, oh, so this is what you meant in the PowerPoint. This is what you meant in the conversation. Real life 5G, and it always ends with this. It ends with, you know what I would do with that? Here's what I would do with that. There's a
Exactly.
genius engineer. You may have met him out of Xerox PARC. He's the reason why we have laptops and mice and Ethernet. Alan Kay.
Alan,
And
yeah.
he said, look,
Brilliant.
he said context is worth 80 IQ points. Now that means lack of context is negative 80 IQ points, which is not a good thing. So especially when we engage with retail partners or other verticals, the humility to really listen and not show up as, hey, we're the 5G experts. We really know how all of this works, which, we really do.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. It's the 1 + 1. It's the 1 + 1 = 3. It's the cumulative IQ and context that really gets you going there. So we look strategically back to your broader question. We think being a partner of choice is a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, are we great at that? Not fantastic yet. Do we make mistakes? Have we made mistakes with some acquisitions in the past? Sure, but we have the ability and the humility and the vision to continually get better, right? It's the last line in the credo of the company is continuous improvement. So I think that more than any particular metric against buy, build, partner, where there's a lot of financial metrics in that.
That's perfect. Thanks for taking everyone on a nice journey and opening your kind of unpacking your innovation labs. It's been very helpful. Any parting words, Toby, for innovators out there that are working in these large corporations about the outlook of growth and innovation for companies your size?
Yeah, you've got to, whether you do it with us or somebody else, you've got to burn a few hours on what is 5G, how does it fit inside of these change waves. There are about 10 change waves impacting business right now, including the fourth industrial revolution. What does that mean to my sector? Let me more deeply understand that, because if not, you're flying blind. And if your competition, it's like the nail gun, right? You're in the construction business. All your competitors have the nail gun, and you're sticking with the hammer. That's not a good thing.
Speaking from someone that has a nail gun, that's a perfect analogy. Listen, next time we'd love to do this at one of your innovation labs there in New Jersey. It'd be great to see you live and see some examples. It'd be awesome.
It will literally blow your mind. I had a person from what I think is one of the top incubators in the Northeast come through right before we shut down for COVID. She swore out loud when we put her through some of our experiences there. Yeah. In a good way, not in a bad way. She was like, holy, she's from New York, so you know how they speak, but it was like amazing. And so I do think it's a really sort of mind opener, and what the possibilities are a huge new shift. Perfect.
Thanks. You've been listening to Toby Redshaw, the head of innovation in 5G at Verizon, little company there on the East Coast and globally one of the leaders. So look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for joining us.